Billy. I put the heat.
So how about number 37 for setting the sacrament table?
Well, it's nice to be together and be back in Walton Carey's home. We always feel a great comfort and welcome here. It's nice to be here. And we've switched back for this second quarter. The year is going by us. So I was thinking today a little bit about how we live. And I don't know about you, but one of the first things that comes to mind in that regard is we live fast. The reality, I think, for many of us is that we have more on our to-do list than strength, energy, and time. And that sets you up for sort of a miserable existence potentially, because if you're like me and you have a high satisfaction level from task completion, but you're always seeing more to do than what's done, then you're left feeling anxious. And it's tough because if you drive your car, let's say you're going on a trip, you have to go 500 miles, but your tank only has enough gas for 300. You're not going to make it. And so this is how we live sometimes. We live on E. We're kind of just getting by. We have just enough strength to get through the day, and it's a feeling of exhaustion, unfortunately, that sets in. And I used to ride a motorcycle, and motorcycles have small gas tanks, 2 or 3 gallons, but they have a reserve tank. So if you run out of gas on the highway, you can switch to the reserve tank, and it has like a half gallon of extra gas to get you to the gas station. And so there's a backup. And, I think that we, spiritually speaking, are running on reserve sometimes. So just like we live in the world naturally, above our means, maybe beyond our strength a little bit, sometimes the same is true for us in a spiritual sense. And so, Brother Brian Griffith mentioned in our business the experience that was given to the church that basically said that the church, as God was speaking to us, he was saying the church does not have enough oil in their lamps. And it's kind of like we're running on E or on reserve spiritually. We have just enough maybe to survive. And I'm here to tell you today, I'm not content with that, and I'm concerned with that. I think we should be running on full. We should be building up our reserve. So that's kind of my theme today, that we might build up the reserve, that we might have enough oil in our lamps. And again, it's like that car example. it goes along with, if you have that 500-mile trip, it goes along with the wise and the foolish virgins, right? And it said that they must have had their lamps on at the beginning of the night, but at some point 5 of them ran out. They didn't have enough fuel to get through the night. And when you have enough fuel in the reserve to get through a season, you have a sense of comfort, a sense of confidence from that, as opposed to feeling anxious by overextending yourself beyond your means. You feel more secure because you've prepared. And so I wonder, how we can address this. And I think we can agree on that first point, that we need to have enough oil or more oil in our lamps. And we need to do that for the purpose of making it through dry spells. When we take a road trip, a lot of times, especially here in the Southwest, there can be many hours between gas stations. You've got to have enough to get you to the next place. And I don't know about you, but when even driving around town, when my tank starts getting towards E, like under a quarter, under an eighth, you start feeling a little bit like that voice is going off in your head. You better get gas soon, especially if it's really cold out, right? And you don't want to be stranded. Well, there are times like that spiritually where you go through those dry spells or those lengths of distance or periods of trial. And we know that there are periods of trial and tribulation that are coming before us. And so isn't it God's wisdom that he's saying, before that journey that we're embarking upon, perhaps, and we see the signs of it, we see many things happening, and I don't know, how that's all going to transpire, but I do know that a pandemic and a war that could trigger all kinds of crazy things has me thinking about how much oil do I have in my lamp, and am I sufficiently prepared to get through whatever might lie ahead? And regardless of what lies ahead, maybe I'm a little off on the timing or in my expectation of how and when that might happen. Won't we feel better regardless if we are full in our reserve, that we have plenty to go ahead with either way? And so I kind of wonder why it is that our culture has evolved like this, why we've all kind of succumbed to it and accepted the idea that it's okay to run ragged, to drive on fumes emotionally and mentally and spiritually. That song of Zion, it says, take some time to pray. This world is moving rapidly, too fast for a child like me. But I know what I must do today. I must find some time to pray. And I think of all sorts of, adages like stop and smell the roses, right? Because when we're going so frantically through life, you don't have time to enjoy it. And then what's the point, really? You've accomplished so much, but there's no time to actually experience it. And this is a sad existence, I think. I see all these people with these huge homes and nice cars, and they're working like dogs to make that possible. When do they get to enjoy those nice things? The Lord wants us, I think, sometimes to be in a more stable position and to not to overextend ourselves necessarily. In fact, it says in the scriptures not to run faster than you have strength. So there's wisdom in pacing yourself. And I think if we're going to agree on, we need to have oil in our lamps, then the next point would be, well, how do we do that exactly? What's our plan? And I would ask you today, do you have a plan for filling up your tank? And I don't actually know what works for you, but you can probably think about it right now and say, well, what energizes me spiritually? And maybe it's time with the saints. I know for Lynette, she loves to be at a large gathering and hear singing. the singing of hundreds of saints is an uplift for her. That's something that fills her tank. And I love to have like conversations and fellowship with brothers and sisters. And, you know, I enjoy time in the Word. I enjoy singing as well. And just connecting with each other. And those things lift me up and fill my tank. But whatever it is that works for you, and the Lord has given us all sorts of things, hasn't he? This week we did fasting and prayer, and study in the Word, and you know, there's lots of things that you can do. So figure out your recipe and make sure you understand what it is that fills your tank. Make that plan, right? And I would say this too: understand what depletes your tank. Because I think that sometimes we don't even realize that we're burning our fuel faster than we're replenishing it. And of course, that's a recipe for disaster. It's kind of like you're, again, just getting by, just surviving. And I want us to be convinced today that throughout the coming time of our lives, that we're going to thrive and not just survive, that we're going to understand this idea of how to fill up our reserve. And I would say that if we're going to fill it up, we do have to address that other issue of patching the holes in the tank. And sometimes the things that are not energizing you, but depleting you spiritually, need to be addressed just as much as your plan to fill up. So, you know, I think maybe it's how we think. And you know, it's kind of amazing and also scary how much of this is within us. This is a lot of internal stuff we're talking about here, but pay attention to how you think. Are those thoughts causing anxiety? Are they angry? Are they fearful? Because those are the kinds of things that will deplete your spiritual tank. And so, you know, I came across this this verse, and it's, you know, it's the one about Martha. And I thought about it in this light, and I thought this is interesting to read it again and with this perspective in mind. And it says, and Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things. So how is Martha living her life? Something's depleting her spiritually faster than the replenishment, right? Maybe we're careful and troubled about too many things. Maybe we need to take our, span of focus and narrow it in to what matters, and be careful that we don't let too much noise into our lives, too much on our plates, things that are not necessarily that worthy to begin with. You know, maybe there are things that we're concerned about that really don't matter that much in the end. I'll tell you, if you have to choose between getting all your tasks done and having a super clean house and a great looking yard, or being content in the Lord, would it really be so bad to let some of those other things slide? Because I think that the world, while we're very good at, you know, we've got HOAs driving us crazy, we've got to have everything looking nice, but where's our peace? Where's our wisdom? Where's our hope? And what governs that to make sure that side of our lives is in good order, right? Mark. And it says in the next verse, but one thing is needful. You know, he just got done telling Martha, you're worried about a lot of different things, but one thing matters. And he says, and Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Isn't that beautiful? That if we take time to choose carefully the things that matter in our lives and pursue them, that they won't be taken away from us. Now, I can keep my yard pristine all my life, but a day will come when that'll become someone else's yard. And I don't know what they're going to do with it. And doesn't Solomon kind of lament this in the Proverbs? He's like, I can work and work and work and accomplish all sorts of things in my life and then leave them to some, Shabbat, what that says, who doesn't care like I did, and it all goes to waste, right? So what's the point? That was taken away. But we have an opportunity before us to pursue something that cannot be removed from us. How beautiful is that? I think it's a lot like exercise. But when you exercise, let's say you set a new goal and you're going to go to the gym or you're going to go for a walk, and maybe your goal is to get in better shape or have more energy or have maybe lose weight. And so you go out and you exercise once or twice or 3 times, and you come back home and you say, I'm more tired now than when I started. I haven't lost any weight. I don't see any results, and you give up, right? Because it's not something that goes quickly, is it? It takes time. And if we're expecting immediate results, sometimes we get disillusioned by, there's no real quick payoff here. And so I'm losing my motivation. And the truth is, although that's really a good analogy sometimes for our spiritual lives, because we have to put faith in God, exercise that faith, do the right things, and then over time, you begin, I think, to see God's hand more in your life. Maybe you get an immediate blessing, or maybe other things start to come together, or maybe, a relationship, a marriage improves, but the longer you go, the more results that you see. But of course, it's not really the point to go out and exercise necessarily, right? In fact, I found this verse in Timothy 4:8. It says, for bodily exercise profiteth little, right? Because that's one of those things that we lose in the end anyway, right? So don't be overly concerned about your body, because it's just a temporary outfit that you wear in this life, right? And I love, I think it was Sister Carrie's prayer or comments this morning about how we either win or we win. I love that. That's wonderful. And so we don't have to say, well, how many days left do I have? You have all of the future. There is no end, right? It's just a matter of, are you wearing this suit or something else, right? But he goes on here and he says, but godliness is profitable unto all things. What a concept. And so the idea that we can learn from physical exercise and apply that to spiritual exercise and understand that it is profitable in all things, right? I mean, you can actually improve every part of your life by doing this. He says, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. That was what Sister Carrie was talking about, right? You can be blessed in your remaining days of this life and in the life to come by choosing those things which are profitable unto all things, and that is godliness. Exercising your faith in those things that matter. And so I think that, perhaps the things that we are thinking and saying need to change. We need a plan to fill our tanks, and we need to live our lives with a greater sense of joy and experience the things God has for us, and make time to, to have more of the Lord in our lives. And think about what this means. What does it mean to you to have oil in your lamp? I'm not exactly sure how you would make your plan for that, or actually what that would be like for you. But I know that when your lamp is full, you know it. you feel it. And if you're not feeling it today, if I'm not feeling it today, we need to get there. And that might mean that we have to surrender some of the things that are not profitable, that are not lasting, and that really don't matter that much. And, that takes some humility, it takes some faith, but there's a great blessing, that is in store that potentially we can enjoy. There's a song called The Race, and one of the lines, it says, the goal had been set and the runners were ready to finish the race. The pace must be steady. Now, that's related, I think. If we have a full tank, then our progress can be steady. If we're scraping by and exhausted, then I don't know how steady we're going to be. And so we have to pace ourselves in such a way that we are focusing on what matters, pursuing it within the means God has given us, and feeling the result of a full tank. And it goes on here, it says, now some were so eager, and these hearts were light. Can you say this today? Are you lighthearted? Or are you heavy-hearted? Are you weighed down by the many things of this life and all the things we can worry about? And boy, there's no shortage. I mean, you pull up your phone and the notifications just kind of feed down the screen about all that's going wrong in the world and all that you have to do that you're not done yet with, because, it seems like the message of the world is always pounding into us is you're a slacker. Work harder, do more. And that's not what I'm telling you today. I'm not saying to do more. I'm saying, in fact, probably we need to do less, but do what matters, do what's important. And I think that perhaps if we had a full tank, if our lamps were trimmed, if we had the sufficient amount of oil, the spirit and presence of God in our lives, that we'd be lighthearted. That we'd be the opposite of what Martha was feeling that day, not weighed down with cares and worries. How beautiful that we might go through life lightheartedly. And then it says, but some, burdened with weights, had limited sight. So it's an insight into how we get there, how we need to change our thinking. We've got to have enough vision to understand God's expansive plan. And it goes beyond my grass and the other silly things that we worry about. People say, wise people say, this too shall pass, right? And things do. They come and they go, and they serve their purpose. They occupy us for a while, and really they don't have lasting meaning. So these are really the thoughts I had today. So I wanted to kind of help us to just understand a plan, and of course to then do the plan, and begin to feel the results of doing it. And if we do that, I think we can be proud to say before the Lord, I listened, I did what you asked, and my heart is joyous and light, and my hope is full, and I'm ready for the journey ahead. So may God bless you today.